Hi everyone, I'm John C. Morley, the host of the JMOR Tech Talk Show and Inspirations for Your Life. Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome once again to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. It's great to be with you. It is a Friday. It is August 21st. Yes, 2026. And it's so great to be with you here on the JMOR Tech Talk Show, the weekly technology show that gives you insights, tips, and things that you need to know to stay safe and to just learn about technology in general. If this is the very first time that you're here with me, I want to take the opportunity to say welcome, and I want to say thank you very, very much. If you've been here before, whether that's one time, 5 times, 10, 100, or more, or maybe you've lost track, I'd like to say thank you, but I'd also like to say welcome and the words welcome back. Don't forget to check out believemeachieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations right after the show is over. Hey, I have a delicious, nice vat of orange juice. That is delicious. All right. Feel free to go get yourself a nice pig beer stein of fresh juice, or maybe a piece of fruit, something healthy or not. That's totally up to you. So let's get this tech show kicked off. All right, everyone. So tech, ladies and gentlemen, is changing everything. This is Series 5. It is show number 35. And a big warm welcome to everyone here to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Who am I? Oh, sure, I'll be happy to tell you that. I'm John C. Morley. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm an engineer, marketing specialist, video producer, podcast host, coach, keynote speaker, graduate student at Montclair State University, a passionate lifelong learner, and so grateful now to be a published author. Yes, it's so great to have everybody here. Thank you so much. This week, I'm covering 14 amazing stories. They involve AI, cybersecurity, privacy, social media, space, technology, Wi-Fi, drones, and even the water coming out of your faucet. Yes, friends, technology is changing quickly, but every advancement creates questions and challenges about security, responsibility, cost, and control. So are you ready? I know I am. Let's get into this. I got to have some more orange juice. Cold, refreshing, and delicious. All right, so the first point is this. My question to you is Apple building an AI China can control? Apple has reportedly trained a China-specific AI model with help from, that's right, Alibaba, as it works to comply with Chinese regulations and compete in the market. This could mean the AI experience on an iPhone in China differs substantially from what users receive elsewhere in the world. So, but here is the bigger question. Are you ready? If governments influence which AI models can operate within their borders, could your location eventually determine what your AI is allowed to tell you? Sounds like an interesting question, but it's actually something I think very thoughtful and something very true that a lot of people miss. All right. A lot of people miss this because they just don't understand the rules. So with everything that Apple's doing right now, reportedly training a China-specific AI model with the help of the Chinese tech giant Alibaba, this causes some deep concern, okay? What's the government really doing? Like, is it all about money, or are they really out for our greater best interests? that's the conundrum right now. That juice is absolutely delicious. So when we think about rules, we think about borders. The purposes of rules and borders is to keep rules in place, right? For example, cops, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but in New Jersey, a cop can't chase outside their border. They can't, okay? A city, a county, or state border within the U.S. police can and do chase suspects across the border under a hot pursuit law only. If we're talking about an international border, like crossing from U.S. into Mexico, local or federal officers generally cannot continue the chase across the line without foreign permission, and they usually stop or hand the pursuit over to international authorities. So what's a hot pursuit exception? If a crime happens, okay, and a chase starts, officers do not have to stop just because you cross a city or a county line. A statewide jurisdiction, in many states, a local officer is sworn in with peace officer authority across the entire state. Now, interstate agreements, many neighboring states have formal agreements allowing police to cross state lines to catch a fleeing suspect. International borders, jurisdiction limits, law enforcement officers of one country lose their legal authority once they cross an official national boundary. The handover. If a vehicle crosses an international border, such as entering Mexico, for example, the chasing agency must stop, notify the other country's law enforcement, and coordinate through federal channels for return or arrest. Now, they may not decide to pursue on the other side of the border. And that's just something that happens sometimes, right? That can happen for whatever reason, right? Even if the law allows them to cross the border, police officers often decide to stop the chase once a suspect crosses into another town, county, or state. So why police call off border chases? Radio failure. Police radios often stop working on the other side of a border. This prevents officers from talking to local dispatchers or calling for backup. Traffic hazards. Chasing a suspect through unfamiliar streets and intersections increases the risk of a bad crash. Okay. Liability and policies. Every police department has strict rules about high-speed chases. Many policies forbid chasing suspects into other jurisdictions for minor non-violent crimes. So, handing over the chase, officers prefer to radio ahead and let the local police department on the other side of the border take over the pursuit. If you're thinking of a specific crime or a particular police department, they can have different rules to whether they're going to do it. And again, some police may decide they don't want to pursue the chase after suspect crosses borders. So that's an interesting one, right? Many police officers, supervisors will actively decide to terminate a pursuit the moment a suspect crosses a city, county, or a state border, okay? As I said, it talks about policy restrictions, loss of control, mutual aid reliance, and even legal liability. So that's a lot of times why these chases happen, okay? Let's get into number two. Number two is Australia banned kids from social media recently. So why are 80% of them still using it? That's an interesting question. Australia introduced tough social media restrictions for children under 16 recently. Yet, early research has suggested around 80% of minors may still be using social media. Lawmakers are considering even tougher penalties right now. If one of the toughest restrictions in the world struggles to keep children off these platforms, we have to ask an important question: whether an online age ban can realistically be enforced, and who should be ultimately the one to carry the responsibility. I think that's a question that has a lot of people, a lot of different ages, parents, guardians, police, and lots of people into this predicament of like, what the heck do we do? Like, what's going on? So Australia introduced one of the world's toughest social media restrictions for children under 16. But early research suggested around 8% of the minors still may be using social media. Looks like it might have failed. Platforms say they're removing huge numbers of suspected underage accounts and warn that the early data does not tell the whole story. Lawmakers are now considering even tougher penalties, potentially reaching a $99 million number. If one of the toughest social media bans in the world cannot reliably keep kids off these platforms, can governments actually enforce an age limit online? Who should ultimately be responsible? Is it parents? Is it technology companies? Or is it the government? These are very interesting questions, but they're real questions. Some more juice. Unfortunately, they're real questions, but they're also getting into a sticky wicket, which is politics. And politics can have a way of either pushing something through or knocking something completely off, right? I think that's a big concern for so many people out today. They want to get the right stuff done, but then when they find in politics they can't do it, what are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to operate? And politics can literally just stop things. When I say dead in tracks, it can stop things dead in the tracks. That's a pretty interesting thing. When politics have a way of crossing into that track and preventing somebody from doing something or allowing somebody to do something that may not be ethical. There's lots of reasons for that, and we could talk about it, but I don't really want to get into politics. I want to get to the point of if there's a rule, that rule should be followed, right? It shouldn't be who you know or what can we do to get around or who can I call to make sure we get around that. I think that's a very important thing. Very, very important thing. But many people see it as a way of looking the other way. And I think that becomes a big problem for a lot of people. And you wouldn't think that politics affects arrests. But the truth of the matter is, in a lot of places, politics affect arrests in many towns. Yes. So it can directly affect arrests in many towns because police chiefs and sheriffs answer to political leaders or voters. So who sets the town's policing priorities? Politics shape how law enforcement operates on a local level through funding, leadership, and even public pressures. So how politics impact local arrests? Elected sheriffs. County sheriffs must run for re-election, meaning their arrest priorities often shift to match what local voters want to see. Appointed chiefs. City police chiefs are hired and fired by mayors or city councils, forcing them to align arrest strategies with the mayor's political agenda. Budget control. Local politicians control the police budget. They can choose to fund specific task forces like traffic enforcement or drug units, or cut funding, which directly changes arrest numbers. Politicized politics. Local governments decide whether to enforce certain laws, strictly or loosely, such as directing police to prioritize violent crime over minor offenses, or vice versa. Like we saw in a while back, there was a situation where the police were responding because of a request made by the school, right? They knew something was online. They were responding to it because they knew that was going to be a hot issue, because parents were concerned, and parents are the voters. Public pressure. High-profile media stories or community protests can force political leaders to order sudden crackdowns or changes in arrest policies and satisfy public demand. So it was a few months ago that a police department said they were coming out to arrest students if they did the protest, even if peaceful. So that's interesting, guys. Yes. This was involving the former Chandler Police Sergeant Dustin Mullen, who was caught on video and in a police report outlining a plan to orchestrate the mass arrest of student protesters, even if they were peaceful. If your memory is, instead of a citywide police directive during the widespread anti-ICE school walkouts in February 2026, departments like the Aurora Police Department in Illinois and the Quakertown Police Department in Pennsylvania made headlines for arresting high school students after warning them that walkouts blocking traffic would result in immediate police intervention. The Chandler, Arizona incident, the threat, footage and police reports revealed that an off-duty masked sergeant, Dustin Mullen, went to a high school campus during student demonstrations. The arrest strategy. He was explicitly quoted as saying his goal was to get all these kids in jail. His stated plan was to provoke them, film it, and say, my plan is legitimately to just let them all assault me and you guys arrest them all. That's terrible. The fallout, prosecutors refused to pursue charges against the students. The Sergeant Mullen was stripped of his badge and weapon and placed under internal investigation by Chief Matt Giordano. If we talk about the 2026 ICE situation, police warnings, the justification, the classes, the arrest. So I think sometimes political power gets in the way. And when it gets in the way, something needs to be done before a fallout or something happens. These students weren't doing anything wrong. They were peacefully protesting, and there was no need to arrest them. But you see what his plan was? His plan was to get them in trouble. That is a troublemaker, like hands down, right? Number 3, guys, hackers just stole data. Are you ready? On 678, I didn't finish, 678,000 taxpayers in France confirmed that a cyber attack on its tax agency resulted in data being stolen from 678,000 taxpayers. That's heavy, guys, including individuals and businesses. Investigators are still determining exactly what information was ascertained and accessed. Government systems contain some of our most sensitive information because we're required to provide it. If attackers can penetrate those systems, how confident should any of us be that our personal data is completely safe? These are some valid questions. Let's face it, the people that run the government, they're not technical people. I mean, I'm just being honest about that, okay? So France confirmed that a cyber attack happened, and this caused a big issue. So do you trust governments to protect the personal data they require you to provide adequately? I don't think so, but you still have to give it to them, right? Do you trust giving data to Facebook? No. Number 4, could AI turn Workday, which has been an abomination? We all know what Workday has caused. It's caused people to get fired and improper people to not get hired, into a $50 billion buyout. Silver Lake is reportedly discussing an acquisition of Workday in what could become one of the largest software buyouts ever in history. Now, Workday was valued around $43 billion before reports of the talks sent its shares sharply higher. But you see, AI creates an interesting question for investors. What's that question? Does it make established software companies more valuable because they can integrate AI, or threaten them because entirely new AI-driven products could replace traditional software? That's a very interesting question. I think a lot of AI today, unfortunately, is being hit with these threats, right? And so my question is, if they do the buyout, will they make the software non-biased? ADP is a data processing company. Do they really care about people's privacy and security? They say they do, but do I think they do? No. The fact that the system has basically blocked innocent people from getting jobs, I think is a crime. And they claim it's just the AI model. Yeah, baloney. Number 5, guys. Did you know that children were found working inside a major electronic supply chain? This is crazy. 4 children between 14 and 16 were recently rescued from an electronic supplier in India after authorities found them working 6 days a week for reportedly just $105 to $125 a month. Pitiful. Authorities have called for supply chain checks. Modern technology supply chains can involve thousands of suppliers, but complexity can't eliminate accountability. How far should a major company's responsibility extend into the company supplying its products? I've said this before. Everyone has to become accountable and responsible for things. And I think that's a real important thing. But the supplier identifying major companies among its clients, prompting authorities to call for urgent supply chain checks. And Eureka Forbes said it has launched an internal investigation, while Hindustan Unilever says the vendor was not a business partner. When a major company uses thousands of suppliers, how responsible should it be for what happens deep inside its supply chain? Should companies face penalties when child labor is discovered at one of their suppliers? I would think yes. What are your thoughts on that? And obviously, we know why they're doing this. They're doing this to save money. But when we're exploiting workers, and especially children, that's got to be a crime, right? Or wrong. It's funny. Nobody really cares about anything until what? Until they get caught. Until they get caught. That's when they start saying, wait a minute, maybe we didn't mean this. Maybe this was a mistake. But it's funny how nobody did anything until an investigation was developed. That blows my mind. The fact that this stuff goes on day in and day out, that is a serious problem. Number 6, guys. Hackers say they hit nearly 50 major companies at once. A hacking group claims it stole large amounts of data from nearly 50 companies worldwide. Wow. Now, naming corporations including Shell, Philips, Fiserv, and GE. Some companies have confirmed incidents or investigations, although the hackers' broader claims haven't been independent. Yeah, they haven't been independently verified. So I think these are important things that a lot of people they just don't get what's going on. And I feel that this kind of stuff is going to be something that's going to cause a problem as we move further down, the Mulberry Trail. Why? Because it's about them saving money. That's what it's coming down to. But in this case, saving money because they didn't want to pay for the right protection. I've always said before, it's not a question of if you're going to get attacked, but when, if you're not properly protected. The frightening issue, you know what it is, guys? It's scale. One vulnerability in widely used software can potentially expose many organizations at once without their knowledge. Cybersecurity is increasingly about protecting the entire technology. Supply chain. And supply chains are really big, guys. They're big. And the fact that nobody was aware of this right away just blows my mind. I mean, companies like Shell, Philips, and Fiserv, And GE, shame on you guys. The disturbing part is how these attacks may work. Instead of targeting companies one at a time, the group is known for finding vulnerabilities in widely used software and potentially exploiting CVEs that have not been reported yet, critical vulnerability exposures, that many organizations have. Things like Microsoft, SharePoint, and other software. If one vulnerability in software used across corporate America can potentially expose dozens of companies, how secure is the global footprint of their technology supply chain? Should software companies be held responsible when an unpatched vulnerability leads to a massive breach? These are all very, very great questions. Another question that kind of comes from this, it's a little bit of a tangent, but I want to share it with you, and that's the concept of drones. Yeah. So when will Amazon deliver by drone? Well, soon. Amazon Prime Air is already delivering packages by drone. Orders under 5 pounds arrive in as fast as 30 to 60 minutes. The service is expanding nearly to 500 U.S. cities and towns by the end of 2026. The question is, can you opt out? And I think that's an important question for us to know. Can you opt out of it? Yes, you can opt out of drone delivery for your address by submitting a request to Amazon's customer service. I think when we think about these things, it becomes a very, very big problem, okay? Amazon is scaling up to operations rapidly through 2026 right now, targeting hundreds of suburban areas. Eligible items under 5 pounds can arrive in as fast, they're saying, as 30 minutes now with the new changes. So you can request to opt out of being delivered by Amazon's drone. So I think that's good. The question is, do I need to get drone insurance if Amazon delivers to me? No, you do not need to get drone insurance. Amazon delivers packages to your property. The delivery drone belongs to Amazon, not you. So Amazon operates the Prime Air service and carries its own commercial aviation insurance for flight operations and potential accidents. You're simply the recipient of the package, meaning you hold no legal or financial responsibility for the aircraft itself. I don't know. Will this change? And I think that's an important thing for a lot of people, to realize. Is this going to change? And if it's going to change, we probably need to be aware of it. But the question is, maybe you're not going to get a policy, but it's going to be thrown into your general policy. This is what I kind of think is going to happen. Number 7, guys, you're going to love this one. The police used these special cameras to track romantic partners. Flock Safety's license plate cameras today are supposed to help police find stolen vehicles and missing people. But some cases recently emerged involving officers allegedly using the technology to improperly track romantic partners and others. Flock is now reducing most data retention and flagging unusual searches. Surveillance technology can serve legitimate purposes, but powerful tools need powerful safeguards. If technology can track ordinary people's movements, who watches the people performing those searches? And I think these are important things. I mean, this gets back to, even being able to run credit reports, right? We still have to police that whole system, even when companies have the right to do that. I think this is becoming a problem, a very, very big problem. And, the fact that the police are doing this just blows my mind. Okay. They're not available for direct individual purchase. Okay. A Flock Safety operates on a hardware as a service subscription model, typically, just so you know, costing about $2,500 per camera annually. which includes the equipment, the software, the maintenance, and cellular solar setup. So they are sold under contract to law enforcement agencies, businesses, and neighborhood HOAs. Okay. You can go to flocksafety.com. You can definitely look at their products. They have a license plate reader, and you can look at it. And you can book a demo and all that kind of stuff. And you can request a demo, right? But it's hardware and software as a service. A lot of people are doing that now. So the thing about Flock, I mean, they've been around for a little while, as you know. But I think the biggest challenge with them is that it's causing an issue because people are not they're not aware, I would say, of of what's going on. And the fact that people are exploiting Flock, this just kind of causes a big concern for me. All right, a very, very big concern. So they're called Flock Safety. Flocksafety.com is their thing. They have a whole media kit if you're wondering where they are. So they're in, they're actually in area code 404. They put their number on their website for media inquiries only. That's what they do it for. So they're out of Atlanta, Georgia. But bad actors, even cops can be bad actors, right? Some can be. And I think these are big issues that a lot of people don't realize, okay? So the fact that this even happened, the fact that people are using technology that's being meant for safety and to protect people, and they're using it to track people's relationships, I think that's just terrible that can happen. But hey, they have a technology and they exploit it. Ladies and gentlemen, number 8, hackers are going after something very precious. It's not my orange juice, I'll tell you that. They're going after America's water. Huh? You heard me correctly. Cyber attacks have reportedly affected water utilities across multiple states, including, guys, I don't want to scare you for those of you who are from New Jersey, including New Jersey. I mean, that's just like crazy, guys. That's absolutely crazy. With some incidents disrupting actual operations facilities. Researchers have also identified thousands of controllers used by water systems that are exposed online to attack. So cybersecurity isn't only about stolen passwords anymore. When attackers can potentially interfere with water pressure, flooding, shutdowns, or public safety, cybersecurity becomes critical infrastructure security. And I think our resources are probably one of the most precious things we have. Okay? It's one of the most precious things we have. And I think we have to make sure that our resources stay safe. And that's it. The fact that they're issuing, temporary shutdowns and boil notices and all kinds of things. I mean, this is crazy, guys. But this isn't some sci-fi. This is real. So let me tell you why this is happening, in case any of you are wondering, what's causing this to happen. So what's causing this to happen is something you probably don't realize. And without getting into too much of this, because I don't want to educate the bad actors here, they're using technology that's very old in these places and not much security behind them. So some of the devices that I saw doing this were amazing. I mean, they haven't been changed in years. And the company that manufactured them, when I contacted them, they said, well, it works, so there's no need to change it. I said, well, that's crazy. Number 9, guys, astronauts may soon need armor to survive the sun. Crazy. NASA's Artemis 1 mission tested a 57-pound radiation shielding vest designed to protect astronauts from dangerous solar storms. Now, researchers found it could significantly reduce radiation exposure during extreme events. Now, getting humans to the moon or Mars is only part of the challenge, guys. Keeping them alive during long missions is another. Deep space exploration means engineering solutions for dangers we barely encounter on Earth. So let's dive into that a little bit more, shall we? So what are the dangers, okay, for astronauts going into space for their body? What are they? This will blow your mind, guys. This absolutely is going to blow your mind. Are you ready for this? You know, people talk about wanting to go to Mars and space, and it's a nice idea, but really, it's not smart. Our body is not designed to go to Mars. Some people have this idea, oh my gosh, we want to go to Mars, want to go to Mars, want to go to Mars, right? So one thing is radiation exposure, right? So they're working on that. So outside much of the Earth's protective magnetic field, astronauts receive more ionizing radiation from galactic cosmic rays and solar particle events. And this can change your DNA and increase long-term cancer risks. That's bad. The severe solar storm we talked about, a 60% reduction during an extreme event comparable to the 1972 solar storm. Bone loss. Without normal weight bearing, bones lose mineral density, particularly in the hips and legs. Longer missions make maintaining skeletal strength increasingly important. Muscle loss. Muscles don't have to work against gravity, so they can weaken and shrink. They get atrophied, basically. Think one reason astronauts have rigorous resistance and cardiovascular exercise program is to keep them going. Cardiovascular changes. The heart and blood vessels adapt to microgravity. Returning to gravity can then cause dizziness, weakness, and difficulty maintaining blood pressure while standing. Fluid shifts toward the head. On Earth, gravity pulls fluids downward in microgravity. Fluids redistribute upward, and this contributes to familiar puffy-faced astronauts can develop and are associated with changes affecting the eyes and, of course, the brain. Vision problems. Some astronauts develop a condition known as spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome, or SANS. The changes can include flattening or the back of the eye and alterations in vision. Some could actually be permanent damage, guys, unfortunately. That's a problem. Balance and coordination problems. The inner ear and brain normally use gravity as an important reference. Microgravity forces the brain to adapt, sometimes causing space motion sickness initially and balance problems after returning to Earth. Immune system changes. Spaceflight can, after time, alter the immune functions, while stress, radiation, disrupted sleep, and isolation can add additional psychological strain. Sleep and circadian disruption. Astronauts can experience altered sleep patterns in low Earth orbits. For example, rapidly repeating sunrises and sunsets make normal environmental day and night cues very different. Mars makes everything harder. A Mars mission could expose astronauts to many of these conditions for years rather than days or weeks, with much less protection from Earth's magnetic environment and no possibility of quickly returning home. So getting humans to Mars may not be the hardest problem. As I said, keeping the human body healthy enough to survive the journey, live there and come home healthy, could be the real engineering challenge. And there's a lot that has to go into this. We're talking about money, time, resources, and really people are being guinea pigs. I don't know if you guys know that. They're being guinea pigs. And everybody talks about, it's so great to be an astronaut. And I used to think so, but I'm realizing that you're hurting yourself. You're damaging your precious body. Number 10, guys. Amazon wants to keep you out of court. This is a real interesting one. So Amazon updated its terms recently. So most customers' disputes would go through binding arbitration, okay? instead of a traditional courtroom, while also adding a waiver aimed at preventing class action cases. So small claims court may remain available in certain situations. How many people actually read every page before clicking agree? Digital convenience increasingly comes with legal agreements. Most consumers barely see, making it important to understand what we're accepting. I think that's important. So many people are asking me, John, how do we opt out of the new Amazon lawsuit issues? Right now, not really. I mean, they're such a big company, and you cannot opt out of the Amazon's updated binding arbitration and class action waiver. Under the Amazon conditions of use, continued use of any Amazon service or Prime membership constitutes automatic acceptance of the new terms. No class action lawsuits. Mandatory arbitration. Most legal disputes must be handled via individual arbitration or small claims court. No opt-out mechanism. Amazon's update agreement does not provide individual written or online opt-out process. The only way not to agree is to stop using and close your account. The question a lot of you are asking, is this legal? And to think about that, so binding arbitration clauses and class action waivers are entirely legal under the current U.S. law. While it might seem unfair to lose the right to sue, the legal framework heavily favors corporations in these scenarios. Basically, take it or leave it. There's a limit to their protection. So Amazon's always making changes. We know this. It's nothing new. Number 11, guys, AI can now fake the person who controls your money. AI-powered deepfakes can imitate faces, voices, and identities convincingly enough to create serious problems for financial institutions. Banks are responding with technologies, including biometrics, liveness detection, device fingerprinting, and strong authentication. But I'll tell you one that I'm not a big fan of. Whenever I get these banks, whatever it is, and they say, can I use your voice? I'm like, no, you can't. I don't want my voice being recorded and being used as a voice print or a way to identify me. If a video call, okay, a voice password or security code isn't enough to prove you're really you, identity verification, okay, may have to fundamentally change. And that's one I think that has a lot of people concerned is we've got so many deep fakes out there. Your information could just be cloned. Number 12. Wi-Fi 8 is coming. But strangely enough, speed isn't the big story anymore. Wi-Fi 8 is expected to roll out around 2028. The biggest improvement, as I said, is not the speed. The standard now that's emerging is being designed around more reliable and predictable wireless connections. There's an interesting thought, including closer coordination between access points. For homes and businesses, reliability can matter more than another impressive speed number. A connection that's slightly faster isn't very useful if it just keeps disappearing when you move across the building. I think a lot of people out there are concerned about that. So more on Wi-Fi 8. There's going to be a lot coming out with Wi-Fi 8. It's going to be the 802.11bn standard, okay? It shifts the wireless focus from raw maximum speed to ultra-high reliability. They call it UHR. Seamless roaming and deterministic low latency in congested environments. Official ratification and broader consumer product availability are expected to hit us around late 2027 to 2020. So we got some time across that. So we have the UHR targeting fewer drop packets and stable throughput rather than high theoretical peak speeds. Multi-access point coordination basically enables nearby routers and access points to coordinate via coordinated beamforming and spatial reuse instead of competing or fearing things. So that's something we had in managed networks, but we didn't really have it in like standalone networks. Enhanced long-range ELR and DRU uses distributed tone resource units to boost power efficiency and maintain clear connections at the furthest edges of the coverage. So smoother rate adaptation, introducing new intermediate modulation encoding, MCS, and the unequal modulation, UEQM, so weak devices are able to stream and do not drag down the overall network performance. Seamless roaming minimizes latency spikes and packet loss when mobile devices or headsets hand off connections between across points. So there's a lot happening. So you're probably asking who will have the first router. And I think that's still being speculated. There isn't a lot of details on that. So far, what I can see. So we've got TP-Link, who I'm not a big fan of. Having the Archer 8 to be coming out. The Asus Rogue Rapture GT BN98 Pro, the TP-Link Deco 8, and the TP-Link Roam 8. There are no, what about Netgear, right? So Netgear has not announced or mentioned anything. They're doing something very interesting. You know what that is? They're taking a more conservative approach and are not going to be among the first to market with a pre-standard draft hardware 2026. So they're going to wait. And I think that's a smart move because there's going to be problems with Wi-Fi 8. I already know this. So we just have to kind of wait. Don't be in a rush to deploy. Number 13, your next drone could suddenly cost a lot more. Why? Great question. The United States is imposing new tariffs on what we call imported drones. Smaller qualifying drones could face a 25% tariff, while larger drones, thermal imaging models, and docking stations could face tariffs reaching 100%. The goal is reducing dependence on foreign drone technology and encouraging domestic manufacturing. But see, consumers and businesses could face higher prices and fewer choices. So is greater supply chain independence worth paying substantially more? We're not going to have a choice. And I think that's a very big problem for a lot of people out there. It's going to basically be affected by, you know what, guys? Politics. Yes, it's going to be affected by politics. So that's a problem, right? With Chinese manufacturers currently playing a major role in the drone market, businesses and consumers could see higher prices and fewer choices as the rules take effect. So is protecting America's drone supply chain worth paying substantially more for the technology? Would a 25%, 100% tariff change whether you bought a new drone or not? I'm curious. Let me know about that. And our last story for today, a new Windows 0 delay is raising some serious questions. What questions? I'll get into that in just a minute. A researcher publicly disclosed a Windows Defender 0 day called Shield Break. Now, it doesn't independently allow a remote attacker to break into a computer, but someone who already has access could potentially exploit Defender to elevate privileges to system level. Now, Microsoft says it's investigating, and here's the important part. This is not a reason to disable Windows Defender if that's your only thing. It's a reminder that no single security product should ever be treated as your entire cybersecurity strategy. You should always have layers without getting into all that because there's a lot to it. You've got layers on your endpoint. You have a layer for your firewall. You should have layers. And it's important that you do that. Just like in power protection, right? You have things in layers. And the reason people don't do layers is expensive. But if something fails or falls through the cracks, layers are going to catch it. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I can actually tell you. Okay. It can actually tell you. And I think that's a very important thing. And it's something I believe that most people are going to shy away from. Okay. they're going to shy away from it. And I'll tell you why. It's because they don't want to spend the time and the effort on it. Okay? And I think that's something that a lot of people out there today are probably going to say to me, hey, John, this sounds like a great idea, but I don't know if we should go down this pathway. I don't know if it's the right way to go, right? I mean, that's probably the best thing I can say to you. I don't know if it's the right way to go right now. So we've definitely got to keep our options open, okay? If we keep our options open, then we can say, okay, this makes sense. This is what's going on. But if we don't keep our options open, we're going to have problems. And we're going to have leaks because everything has to get updated. We can't just do something once and then hope it works. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So when we think about this technology, because that's what we're talking about here, is that all security systems, I don't care whose you have, they all have to be checked. They all have to be patched. And you can't just rest in your chair and say, okay, I've got the best security system. You might, but you never should be so complacent as to say, gee, I'm 100% protected. If you have layers, you always should be humble and know that you got to keep checking. So as I get ready to close out today's show, we talked over 14 powerful stories, but one message is resonating and connecting all of them together. What is that? Technology is becoming more powerful and more deeply integrated into everyday life, okay? AI in itself can change what your phone tells you, imitate your identity, and reshape major software companies. Hackers aren't only targeting computers anymore, guys. Sorry. They're targeting taxpayers, corporations, and critical infrastructures like our water, our safety, our gas, and other public resources, and even surveillance tools. And these tools from surveillance can protect communities while also creating privacy nightmares. Even Wi-Fi, drones, space travel, and the agreements we accept online are changing. That's a lot, guys. Are we ready for all this? You see, technology is going to keep moving, whether we want it to or not. It's going to keep going forward. Our responsibility is to understand what it means, ask better questions, and make informed decisions about how we use it, okay? If we know that, it's half the way the battle. I've said this before. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you forgot who I am, I'm John C. Morley. I'm a serial entrepreneur. And I thank you so much for choosing to join me today for another amazing episode of the JMOR Tech Talk Show. I know a lot of you, when you hear about technology or when you hear about AI, you pull back. And I get it. I don't want to tell you, oh, this technology is bad. It's a tool. It's how we're choosing to use it to make it so. Like, look at flock cameras, right? Is flock cameras bad in itself? No. But can they be used in a way that would be malicious or some way to exploit people's privacy? Yes, absolutely. This is the important question. Does that make sense? And I think that's a question a lot of people have to ask. So that's a big problem. That's a problem that we all have to face. Okay? And I know a lot of you are saying, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? We have to be mindful with the technology that is out there. Okay? We have a responsibility to ourselves, to our community, to the world, to our family, to use technology in a way with the highest level of morals and respect for ourselves and for others. We have to use these tools in a responsible manner. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to check out, of course, believemeachieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations. I know that as you are hearing all this stuff, some of you are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. I don't show you and tell you this stuff to frighten you. I share it so you can become educated. One of the best ways that you can protect yourself is by getting educated, by learning about these things so that you can become aware of the technology and not let it surprise you. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you, of course, to stay curious. A curious mind asks great questions, can solve amazing situations. I'd love you to stay informed. When you stay informed, you also are able to really pick up knowledge. You're able to take that knowledge and you're able to extrapolate it and interpolate it to other things to make even bigger and better knowledge beds. These are the things that cause people to pause. Every decision you make may not be right. Every decision I make may not be right. But if we at least acknowledge the decision is wrong, we can correct it. No one expects us to be perfect. But what people expect is for us to be accountable and to do the right thing, whether somebody is watching or whether someone's not watching. I remember a commercial several months ago I saw with some airline company. And when they know they're being watched, they like patted the luggage down. They dusted. Oh, it was really, really cool. But when they didn't believe they're being watched, they just threw the luggage like didn't even care. I thank you so much for choosing to be with me today and to listen to my stories and to hear about the technology. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Your awareness, your desire, your passion, your authenticity, and your choice to do the right thing, even when no one else is watching, is what will set you apart from other people. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to see you next time. But before I sign off, I want to remind you, technology is a tool. Let's use it wise, smartly, safely, ethically to create a better version of ourselves and others so we have a great world. Have a great one, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll catch you next week.
Hate paying for checked luggage, but still need insane packing room?
Mm-hmm.